to be a part of. So I hope you guys are all enjoying listening to it.
Fantastic. All right, Anne?
Hi, I'm Ann Kipfer. I play the role of Martha, and there was Lazarus' older sister, I believe. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. And then Vanessa?
There we go. Hi. I am Vanessa Hancock. I play Miriam, Lazarus' sister, but I'm also married to Daniel, the director. So my job encompassed more than just the role. And Anne and I also did a lot of the costumes and makeup, and she mostly did hair, but and more hair than I did. But we both worked a lot on that part too. So we did more than just the role.
Fantastic. All right, cool. Well, so just jumping in, um, anything in particular that you want to start with, like you really enjoyed about your roles, whether it's cast or crew, anything in particular about this project that just really impacted you or stood out to you?
I'll start. It's something that was really challenging, especially for the makeup department, was all of the visual effects in regards to like the physical aspects. Let's see, I made a list of things that so I wouldn't get lost. The gentleman that had the leprosy, we had to kind of figure out interesting ways of making that look as real as possible so that it would come across on the camera. And I have to say, working, a lot of the aspects were trying to layer what you were seeing, and so that the lighting would pick up, and it would actually look 3D, not just painted on. And so as I was layering things, sometimes it was starting out, it was looking kind of weird and very patchy. And then as we would build on the layers, at one point I actually had to walk away because it started to look too real, and it was starting to actually make me nauseous because it looked so real. And so I think I kudos goes to I think Jennifer, you helped out, and Vanessa, you as well. And so and then with Jesus Stripes, Dan helped a lot of that, making sure that we had the right look. You know, also doing a lot of research as far as Cat of Nine Tails that he would have been whipped with, what that how that actually affects the skin, and being able to make it look real as possible. And that was really kind of brought that home too, of like, he just wasn't whipped with a little whip. It was actually tearing at his flesh. Not to get too graphic, but and so that, to make it look as real as possible, and to really kind of make it realistic, so that people were actually like, oh my gosh, no, this was actually brutally, uh, as brutal as possible.
Yeah, and I think to add to that was we had 40 plus photos that we did. So Anne and I and a lot of the others, it was really learning as we go. So there was a lot of YouTubing. There's a lot of book reading. Some days probably took longer than they should have because, if you didn't do it right, we had to take it off and start over. And we had to make it look, like she said, like there was actually flesh ripping. We had to make the costumes and the, weapons look accurate because there's a lot of criticism out there if it's not accurate, and you want it to look as real as possible. But there were so many things that we had to do that I think that was a big part that Anne and I did more than the acting in it was. We did a lot of costumes. That was a little bit difficult because how do you make varying Bible costumes? They're all the same muted colors and basically just drape layers of clothing, but you don't want everyone to wear the same brown color. So that was difficult to kind of like get a variety of looks in there, but I think that was, for me, that was a lot of what I did more than anything else. So that was a huge learning experience to try and make it look as colorful as possible, as real as possible, and not have everyone look the same.
Mm-hmm. Anne and Vanessa are definitely, the masterminds behind all of that. But I would help out little bits here and there where I could. And I remember Anne had taught me how to apply makeup just right to kind of make it look like the skin's bruising. And for one of my photos, I had to have a black eye. So I, put on the makeup just as she taught me, and then went and helped other people. And someone else had then showed up on the set, took one look at me, and like freaked out, thinking, oh my goodness, what happened to you? I'd forgotten I was wearing makeup at that point. And we all just had a good laugh over it. I'm like, well, it's good that we're getting it to the point where it looks realistic now.
Which again, thank you very much, Jennifer, for being hands and feet of for me, being able to, because I'd have a lineup of people and I go, I can't do everybody. Okay, you and you, can you help? Are you handy with a brush? Here, I need you to do this. I need you to do this. And then once you've gotten that basic layer, then you can come to me and I can kind of, finish touch or whatever. And again, like Vanessa said, a lot of learning on site. And so a lot of us just learn the craft as we go, and you build upon what you learn, and you get so good that people actually are starting to be concerned about calling people for protection because it looks so real. So I must have done something right.
How was that? I know that's something that's really unique to this production and really epic about it. And just having like the whole visual side of things for an audio drama. What would you say to the audience who may be wondering, like, so what's the purpose of connecting that with the auditory? Like, what do you see as kind of the impact of it?
Anybody? I could talk, but I don't want to take it all up. So just really quick, I would say that sometimes it's growing up, for my personal background, growing up in a church, a lot of times, not that you take it for granted, but as you start off with little kid Bible stories, you just kind of go, oh, that's a nice story. And it doesn't really become real until as you grow and you start to kind of make those connections in your head. And I can't speak for everybody. I'm sure there's I think the way the Bible is presented too has a lot to do with that. But having visual pictures to actually look at while you're hearing the scenes kind of solidifies what it is that you're listening to, because I know sometimes when I'm listening to things, I'm working around the house or whatnot, and I get distracted, and then I go, oh wait, what was I listening to? Okay, yeah. So having that visual companion to be able to actually make what you're listening to real, as compared to watching a movie, sometimes people's interpretations, and I appreciated what Dan did, taking snippets of what you were listening to as compared to trying to flesh out everything as a movie does. And some people go, no, that's not quite how I saw that, so I think a lot of that is just snippets so that you can kind of fill in the rest on your own.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so then let's, I guess, jump into the character side. Since you all play characters, first of all, Anne and Jenna, could you talk about playing sisters with Mary and Martha? What that was like?
Did you say Anne and Jenna?
I'm sorry. Was that the right one?
No. It was me and Anne.
Okay. Vanessa and Anne.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was my bad.
That was pretty easy to jump into because Anne and I had known each other and worked together for years. We even worked at the same job together for a while. And so we kind of already had a sister-to-sister pick on each other kind of relationship. So it was a little bit easier when you were in a studio to try and imagine, because like Jason said the other day, you're just there with foam and a microphone, and someone from the other side of the wall is telling you what your next line is or what the other person's saying, and I have to pretend I'm there with somebody, especially in emotional scenes or other things like that. You just have to pretend like, it's there in front of you. But it was easy to imagine and visualize with Anne because I know her so well. I could do my lines to react to her, you know, pretend like we're there together because because we had such a close relationship already.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. And if anything, Vanessa's harder worker than I am. So when my character is make her work, you know, it's and it was funny too. Yes, or Monday, somebody had mentioned about matching the characters with the actors, and when I was approached to be Martha, I went, ugh, why am I always stereotyped? um, but you know, and apparently I have a knack for crying really well too. So
Yes.
that was, you know, a lot of the background crying. I think a lot of us were called in to do as well. But being able to draw on past experiences, personal experiences, for those emotional scenes. And again, it was hard to do in a studio, but Dan was very generous about giving us the time that we needed to be able to kind of draw inwardly for the true emotions that related to our characters. And sometimes it was hard to pick up where we left off, because once you're in the mood, once you're in that mode, you know, a lot of good acting can come out of that. But it's also nice to be able to go, okay, we've got about 2 hours, let's see what we can get done, and then be able to leave, as compared to a stage play where, you know, you have 2 hours to do your whole thing. To steal from the Monday show, I prefer stage acting for that reason, because anything goes. But voice acting has its own merit too, being able to layer those things, the sound, the orchestra, which I had a chance to play in as well. The costumes, you have a lot more time getting costumes, doing photo shoots, doing hair and makeup and all of that stuff. So but yeah, acting with Vanessa as her sister was great, because like she said, we had a working relationship ahead of time, and so it was a lot of fun.
Cool. And so I know this was a question as you addressed and on Monday night for the 4 disciples there. Vanessa and Jenna, what were your thoughts on voice acting? Did you enjoy that? Would you pick that above live acting, or would you prefer the stage?
I think it's a little bit different. Sorry. Because when you do stuff live, you know, I think it was Jason who said there's an audience watching. There's like a nervous energy that you have, and there's people reacting off of each other, and you don't have to imagine you're there. You have sets and props and people and costumes, so it's easy to kind of be there and play off of each other and say your lines to each other and react to each other and do it that way. But as opposed to a studio, it's you say the same line over and over and over again in a room by yourself. You're pretending the other person's there. You're pretending you're outside of the tomb. You're pretending you're somewhere. So it's a little bit different type of energy and a feel to it. So it's kind of hard to compare the two because they're almost completely different. You know, so it I guess it's personal preference, but for me personally, I do so much behind the scenes as well. I kind of do a lot of it together because, you know, I work with Daniel. So I like both, but I think I probably prefer the studio because I'm a little more introverted, so it's easier for me to do things when no one's watching. That's a little bit easier for me. Yeah.
I think for me, I mean, I would agree with you, Vanessa, where they're almost so different that it's kind of hard to compare them. But I don't know, even though I'm very much an introvert, when I'm on stage, I love that nervous energy. And it was almost easier for me to, you know, pretend to be somebody else. But then being in a studio and, you know, trying to say the same lines over and over again, but slightly different, so they've got options, it was almost more difficult for me. And especially like a lot of the crying scenes that we did. Even though I tend to be an emotional person, it was hard to just cry on cue and to make it sound, real. And it got to the point where like I was almost like depressed after like 2 hours of trying to cry. I had to like physically tell myself like I'm not actually grieving. I'm not, in danger. I'm okay. So I think, when you're on stage, because the scenes then progress more quickly, you almost don't get that emotional like you do for 2 hours in a studio.
Gotcha. Now, Jenna, I know you played Mary Magdalene, right? I want to make sure I get it. Yeah. Okay, good.
Yep.
I know your character is kind of iconic for her relationship with Jesus. And do you have any? Now, obviously, like at this point, we're only at the third segment of the audio drama, so no spoilers of what's coming up. But is there any like favorite moments or scenes that you had with Jesus?
I would say my favorite moment was the one that was actually just listened to tonight of, those without sin cast the first stone, because I feel like it's so relatable, for all of us. We all sin and we've all done something that separates us from God. We, as humans, we say, okay, there's different levels to sin. Stealing a candy bar isn't worth the punishment as like murder. But for God, any sort of disobedience separates us from him. And so playing Mary Magdalene, and especially when we did the photo shoots, I'm like, lying in the dirt, there's people around me poised with rocks. It was kind of one of those surreal moments where this could be anybody, but this is me. And, when Jesus says that line of he who has no sin cast the first stone, it's like Jesus is perfect and he could condemn us, but he loves us so much that he saves us. And for me, it's just my most favorite scene as Mary Magdalene, because it was just so real to me. So.
Cool. That's really cool. Did you I don't know if this is really a fair question, but did you enjoy the visual, like the photography more, or did you enjoy the voice acting more?
I probably enjoyed the visual part more, again, just because I relate a little bit more with the stage. I mean, audio recording was still phenomenal and it was definitely a new experience, but I tended to relate more with the visual. So like I said, actually being physically in the dirt, crying out for...
Which she really was. She got very dirty, very dirty.
Oh yeah, at one point, like Daniel's like, "You're not dirty enough," so he comes up and like rubs dirt in my hair. I'm like, "Oh goodness gracious, I don't like being dirty." So.
And we're on site, and I think we were at somebody's farm, or did I give that away? I'm sorry. We were there in Israel. Newsflash, we didn't go to Israel. Sorry, but no, we actually filmed those on different locations, and so we're out in the middle of nowhere. So it's not necessarily where quick brush off or quick, do stuff to clean up. It was like, no, she got dirty, and you hoped that certain scenes like that were the end of the day, so that you didn't have to stick around and all of that for the whole day. But I can't remember. I think we were pretty well in the day there. So kudos goes to you, Jenna.
Thanks.
Way to take one for the team.
Any favorite moments of that visual companion? In the other interviews, we haven't really talked so much about the visual companion. So I know you guys were really involved with making it happen too. So any favorite moments or favorite costumes, difficult things to make? Or I know the leprosy was difficult to portray, like you were talking about, but any other stories there?
Honestly, some of it was quite a while ago, and we all did more. We wore more than one hat, so it's kind of hard to try and remember which part of which role we were doing. I remember the day that Anne and I were trying to figure out Jesus's wounds, and I think even the day of, we were still trying to figure out how to make it work, and then we ended up having 10 people rolling toilet paper together to make little gashes and stuff. Do you remember that, Anne?
Yeah, yeah, and
It took a while.
I think we tried wax at one point.
We
Dan
tried
goes, "Here, I got this wax stuff." Yeah, and so then it ended up being like,
up until the actual
well,
photo, we were still trying to figure out how to do it.
right?
Wow.
Well,
Yeah.
because then you would use one method and then you take a picture of it and it wouldn't look right, or the way that it would hold together wouldn't look right, and so then you're battling, you know, the elements plus some of these we were doing during the summer, spring, summer. So you were also battling the elements as far as people sweating. And so you had to keep going, okay, put them in front of a fan because we can't have this makeup run, you know, or we can't have him sweat off these rolled up toilet paper things, you know, which we did the toilet paper thing a long time ago, so it's not taboo. We weren't wasting toilet paper. But I know I almost feel bad for saying that we use, but no, and then lots of makeup. I don't know if I can plug Bill or Ben Nye Makeup, professional makeup. They fantastic materials to use. But yeah, as Vanessa said, you know, sometimes it was a combination of powder makeup, as well as more of a cream-based makeup, and again trying to match the actors' skin tones and you know, blood and dried blood and dirty blood and just all of that kind of stuff, and trying to actually you know, some of those wounds, as Vanessa had said, were actually
And we had a lot of lighter skinned people that aren't supposed to be so light skinned, so we had to cover all of them up. And then I don't know if you remember also the leper. I was supposed to be doing that with you, and I couldn't figure it out. And I think I just ended up leaving it to you that day because I just was at a loss completely, and you figured that out. So awesome job. But
thank you.
I was just
I know
reminded.
it's grossing myself out. It's weird.
I was just reminded that we do have pictures of behind the scenes at bioblactors.com, so you can see some of this stuff where we were actually working on it, trying to put it together, and that is actually the moment we were still figuring it out, most of it. So
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and then with Jesus wounds, trying to put in a little bit of white as well, to make it look like they actually ripped through his flesh down to the bone, and so it was gnarly, it was gross looking, and it was awesome all at the same time, because you want to make that as real as possible so that people actually believe that it's not just the surface of the skin, but they actually got in there, and it you know, he took some pretty nasty hits and falls for us.
I think, like I said, that is a really unique feature of this audio drama, and really powerful too, a really powerful element of it. As far as the costumes went, what was your process with that? Like, where did you even begin? I know you kind of said that, you know, you start with some layers and you don't want to make them all the same shade of brown, but like, where do you even begin with something like that?
help me out, Anne. I don't remember. We did do a lot of other productions before that, so I think at first we were just digging through our totes, trying to find anything.
Save money.
Yeah,
That was a lot of it too.
thrift store, and so a lot of it was kind of like old things that we put together, and then once we started running out of stuff, we're like, where do we go?
We had a lot of donations, I think, of fabric material.
Because a lot of it was very simple, just draped over clothing, and so that was rough. I was mostly just looking for other brown patterns, basically plain, that looked like they weren't too intricately woven. But I think most of it, we had a lot of the material already in our studio, so we just had to kind of find a way to put it together. A lot of people wore the same stuff, but we had to like layer it different on them so they didn't look like the same outfit. You know, like
Right.
the same we used for this person is the same here.
Like, hey, I saw that in Other Wise Man, didn't we?
Yeah, no.
No. It also depended on the character. You know, more of the prominent priests and people of wealth had to be clothed with different colors too, because they were able.
Check out his jacket.
Yep, they were able to afford more dyes more expensive dyes as compared to some of the ones that weren't so high on the totem pole, so to speak, more the plain Jane, everyday Joe Blow. So, but Vanessa did a fantastic job. I don't really remember helping much as far as if there was any costumes that needed to be made. I'm sure I threw my hand at a sewing machine here and there, but I think
We were supposed to do costumes and makeup and hair together, but there was just so much to do. We ended up splitting off. We didn't decide on. We just did. You ended up doing more of the makeup and hair, and I ended up doing costumes. It's just kind of an unspoken thing that happened, but it did just end up working out that way, which worked. It really did.
Yeah, sure. I know for hair, kudos goes to Jenna for donating, letting us borrow for a time those foam heads so that we could, because some of the guys actually couldn't grow as accurate a hair as the characters needed. So we have some hair pieces that are used. And then there are some other characters, one in particular whose hair was altered for his character. James, as Jason, he does not have naturally curly hair. And there were actually some people, he went to work like that. I permed his hair for the character. And there were some people that he worked with who actually asked him why he straightens his hair every day. He should leave his hair curly. And he was like, thanks, but it's thanks. Because I did such a great job. So and he weared it well too, so that really helped. But yeah, I don't remember if I actually had to dye anybody's hair, change the color, or if we just used wigs. But those were kind of challenging to put on, to create it to the character, to the person, and have them wear it and make it look real without looking shiny and glossy and like, oh, that's a Halloween wig, but to then, at the end of the photo shoot, take it off and be able to fold it nicely and pack it away nicely. And then when the totes are moved, then they get jostled, and then you pull it out and you go, oh, this looks like a dead rat. What do I do with this? So then you have to refluff and powder, whatever you have to do with it. So wigs take on a beast of its own, personality of its own. And then makeup, I think for, probably a week solid, if not almost 2 weeks. I had to go through each character. Now this is all coming back to memory, so this is great. Each character, you had to, Dan would give me an idea of what this character is supposed to look like. And then you go through the makeup process. You take a picture of the person's face, each character. So then when those pictures come, or when those scenes come up for taking photo shoots, you don't go, now, what was this person supposed to look like, and how did I do, and what shades did I use, and you make a list of how you layered certain makeup to look accurate to that character, the different skin tones and base makeup that you had to use in order to make super white people look appropriate to the time and the climate, location. Yeah, that was fun. I don't think I've ever worn that much makeup before.
Yeah, I think Jen was the only costume that wasn't just plain and brown colored, because she ended up having that pretty red dress, so we got to do hair and jewelry and stuff. So she got to wear something completely different to stand out, which was really nice. It was a change of pace.
Right. Yeah, I know that was a huge dilemma of trying to figure out how do we, in the photo shoot, portray Mary Magdalene as, who she was without, being too revealing or anything like that. So I think Vanessa did an amazing job creating that costume for me, because it gets the idea across of who she is.
Cool. Well, thank you all for sharing. As we're coming to the end of our time here, do any of you have any final thoughts or things that you really want people to take away from this audio drama?
Yes.
Oh,
That's okay. We got it.
out of the mouth of babes, right? Out of the mouth of babes.
I know.
Attaboy.
Blech. That's what he remembers. Blech.
I would say I would encourage everyone that listens to really take it to heart. Take what you're listening to heart, as if Jesus was speaking directly to you. I think that's what's also nice about it being an audio drama, is that you're not encumbered by watching a movie, and it, you can, a lot of the Jesus movies, Jesus is talking to this person or talking to that person or talking to that person, when really with an audio drama you don't have those visual distractions as much, other than the companion that relates to what you're listening to. But you have that ability to be able to close your eyes and to personalize, and it, the way that everything was recorded and the way that Jake delivered his lines really made it personal, as if he were talking to, straight to you. One in particular scene that I was listening to, I think from, maybe it was Monday, maybe it was tonight, I don't remember, but where Jesus is talking to Peter, and he basically tells Peter, like, you're going to deny me 3 times. He's like, no, I would never, and he's like, you have to do what you do, but I prayed for you that your faith would be strengthened and that you would get through it. You would rise above and you would still follow me. And that moment hit me so hard. Jesus, all fully God, fully man, prayed for us to get through whatever it is that we're facing at whatever moment in our lives. And he humbly prayed for us and made supplication on our behalf to Father. And it was just like, whoa, lots of moments like that happen for me. And it continue, I've read the Bible, I don't know how many times, and there's still moments that get me. So I pray over this whole project that would happen to a lot of other people, that this is able to reach people in a way that our normal stage productions won't usually. And I pray that through this time, with all the COVID and flu virus and all that stuff, that it would really start to hit home with people and would give people peace and would help people be able to take authority and to speak over all the things that are happening, and to really take their personal relationship with Jesus on a whole new level.
I would agree with Anne. I think you kind of summed all that up beautifully. I don't know how much more I could add to it, but yeah, I agree. I hope all of you guys who are listening to this really take, not just the story, but the whole message to heart.
I think one more before we go. Sorry. As being Martha, being Lazarus' sister, another thought had popped into my head yesterday, just about the personhood of Jesus, and how he was a real person. He walked this earth where we walk, and he had best friends. Lazarus is being one of those examples. And I found it interesting that when Jesus was away and Lazarus got sick, Jesus didn't rush right away. He said, I'm coming, I'll be there. And then when he got there, he had passed, and everyone was just sobbing and crying and mourning because he had died. And there was the accusation of, if you had only been here earlier, if you would come faster, he wouldn't be dead right now. He would, you would have just touched him and he would have been healed. He would have turned around and not died. And it even says that Jesus wept. He was so deeply moved. And the thought crossed my mind did Jesus cry because of the people mourning, and he was so deeply moved by their emotion? Or did he know that did he know that it was God's will to heal him? Or, just all those different aspects. And so, being that Jesus was moved to the point of mourning his best friend, and then being able to come out of that and say, no, that's not what I have for you. What was it, that point where Father spoke to Jesus and said, no, speak to your friend and raise him from the dead. It's not time for him to die. So it just, all those different aspects, like Jesus knew he could heal, and yet he mourned over his friend still. Or was it just disappointment that people didn't believe that he could heal him? Like, don't you know who I am? I could heal him. Why are you crying over your friend? Shouldn't you have, hey, now Jesus is here, heal him. So just kind of some thoughts to put out there that, just kind of struck me in a different way, that I've never really sat and analyzed that scene before. But Jesus was human, and he had emotions and had best friends just like we do here. And so that's something else to keep in mind when you're listening to this, that he's not just this ominous figure in history, but it was just like us, but fully God.
Yeah. I think that's one thing like was brought out in the interview on Tuesday night, was just how well you guys did humanizing these characters from scripture, and just how they went through the same things and had the same types of relationships, struggled with the same types of sins that we do today. I think well done to you guys for how well you did that. Well, thank you so much for joining us for our
Sorry.
No worries. We got others chiming in to say goodbye. But thank you for joining us. We hope to see you tomorrow for the 4th and final installment of End of Darkness. All right, we'll see you guys there. Have a good night.
All right, good night. Thank you again, Heidi, for all your hard work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Enjoy.